welcome to our live stream today. And Chocolatey for Business and Azure environment is what we're going to be looking at with Josh King and James Ruskin, as you can see on the screen with me today. I'll introduce both of them in just a moment, but Chocolatey for Business Azure environment allows you to get up and running with Chocolatey for Business in around 20 minutes. It's available as an Azure Marketplace offer, and it includes Sonatype Nexus for your repository manager, Chocolatey Central Management to manage your Chocolatey client deployments and reporting, and also Jenkins for package automation. So what I'm going to do is, as I said, introduce Josh and James. So Josh, would you like to introduce yourself first of all?
Yeah, hi, I'm Josh. Suddenly forgot my title. Infrastructure Operations Engineer here at Chocolatey.
Awesome. Infrastructure Automation Engineer. Yeah. James.
Yep, and I'm a Package and Infrastructure Engineer here at Chocolatey.
Thanks, Josh and James. Okay, both Josh and James today are going to take you through Chocolatey for Business Azure environment, the highlights of the latest release, and then a run through of the solution itself. I'm here really to introduce it, look good, and these guys are really going to do the hard work for you. So I'm going to turn you over to Josh and James. I'm not sure which of you are going to start off, so I'll turn it over to you guys and I'll pop in with some questions. If we've got questions on the stream, then I'll pass them on to you guys. So yeah, if you're watching today and you want to add some questions or ask the guys some questions today, please ask the questions on the stream. That would be really appreciated. And then you can get a kind of live answers to those questions from the two people who are primarily responsible for the solution, the technical parts of the solution. Obviously, Chocolatey Software is a team of people, and all of us behind the scenes feed into this. And the most important thing is that our customers really drive what we're looking for. I've said this in all of our streams, and this is a really good example of where our customers have driven this, because this has come directly from customers, what they want, what they're looking for. So while we've got this Azure environment, and I don't want to take away from what we're going to discuss today, if you want to deploy Chocolatey for Business in your own environment, we also have what's called we call it our quick start guide. And that'll take you through building the same sort of environment in your own infrastructure itself. So while this is available as an Azure Marketplace offering, this will take you, the quick start guide, sorry, will take you through building that within your own organization environment. So before I just hand over to Josh and James, one thing I wanted to say is please like the video when it goes on to YouTube. That'd be really appreciated. So if you're watching this on YouTube at a later date, hi. Also, please click that like button. That'd be really appreciated. And if you want to get notifications when we're next going to stream, and we try and stream the first Thursday of every month. And we're going to also look to do a community stream starting from this month on the third Thursday of every month. This one's going to be different. It's going to be on the third Tuesday, the 28th of June. And we're going to do a community live stream where you'll be able to get involved in our Discord server. You'll be able to find the details for that kind of down below in the description down there. And that we will ultimately put that onto YouTube as well. So generally it's first Thursday. Generally, it's the third Thursday. Because it's June, July, probably even August, people are off on holiday, all things change. So there may be slightly different dates. So just keep an eye out, subscribe, and you'll get those notifications when we do a live stream. So I'm now going to just hand over to Josh and James. And please ask questions in the chat and enjoy the stream today.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Paul.
Thank you.
So, yeah, we're looking at the Chocolatey for Business Azure environment today, which is sort of our complete bundling of an entire Chocolatey for Business environment that you can deploy into your Azure tenant. So it's available as a marketplace offer, which you can get to by either searching the marketplace, either here, which is sort of external to Azure and weird, or within the portal as well. But we do have a short link for it, which is ch0.co/C4B-Azure. And that'll take you through to here. And we're going to look at some of the release notes for the last two releases that we've done. and also a little bit about what's included. But before we do that, I want to kick off actually deploying this thing live. So it will take about 20 minutes to do that. So I'll kick it off now and then we can revisit it later. So from the marketplace, decided you want it, click get it now. And we do want to continue. Now I'm already signed in, so it already knows who I am and what account it's going into and all of that stuff. So we're going to start our deployment. We do only have one plan. There is a drop down there, but just the one, and I'm going to create that. So this wizard, the design of it will look familiar if you've deployed things into Azure before. It's very much that wizard that you go through with most things, but of course we've customized it for this environment that we're about to deploy. So of course, first up, we need a resource group, and I'm going to call this one something that makes sense, like Choco Live. And I'll pick my region, and I will choose Central US. Choco is fine. So we're deploying a Chocolatey for Business environment, which means we need a license for it. I've got one handy. Of course, if you don't have one and you're using this to trial Chocolatey for Business, you can reach out to our support team and get a trial license, or if you've already got a license, you just supply it there. Then we need to tell Azure how we're going to be accessing this environment. So we need an FQDN for the address that we're going to be hitting all the resources behind. And we also need an SSL certificate too for the HTTPS traffic. So I'll call mine. It's probably a bit small. Call it that. And I've pre-prepared a certificate. This does need to be a PFX certificate with a password to import it. And there is 2 password fields there, so it does look like you're creating a password. You're not. You're just basically confirming the already existing password needed to import your certificate. It's just one of those quirks of this interface where Microsoft yells if there's not two password fields there. So, but it is a good, yes, it is a good reminder that to get your password right, because of course, if that's not right, you can't import the certificate, and then things don't work.
You actually also have a very early hard fail during the deployment
yes.
if you get either the license or certificate incorrect.
Yes.
Just to prevent people getting too far into the deployment before realizing that something's been messed up.
Then the very last thing that you need to decide is what you're going to kickstart your environment with, package-wise. So, of course, with Chocolatey for Business, you can internalize packages and store them in your own internal repo. And we've included a couple of suggested packages here for getting that ball rolling effectively. And in our docs, we've got information about what each of those bundles give you. So if you select the all bundle, it gives you that. Minimal, it gives you that. And of course, none gives you nothing. So for this, I'm going to click minimal. And then there's also a selection of other packages that you might want to install that aren't in either of those bundles. But then, of course, if you've got something else that you might want, like I might want 1Password, you can specify any other package by its package ID in there as well. And that's what that's going to do is when it deploys, it's going to internalize that package from the community repository for you, get things going. So with that all done, we click review, And if I've done everything right, we get a nice green tick. And I can just click go. There we go. So I'll click create, and this is going to start our deployment. Well, I just want to see this tick over to the deployment page. There we go. Cool. So as for
Josh,
what we're actually deploying, yes.
Just a question that there, or
Yes.
Stevie had actually pointed something out in the chat, was the certificate that that you were talking about there needs an exportable private key as well.
Yes.
Just wanted to point that out to, obviously,
Yes,
YouTube viewers watching this later on won't see the chat, so I wanted to sort of highlight that.
That is called out in the documentation as well. And of course, it's one of those things that James and I are very, very, very familiar with this environment, and sometimes forget those finer details. So as for what we're deploying at the moment, this is a diagram of what we're spinning up. So effectively, the root of it is a virtual machine, and we've done our best to try and make it so that the entire solution is as close to being an appliance as possible. So ideally, you don't ever need to actually log into the VM, though we do give you the credentials, and of course it's in your tenancy. You can do whatever you want with it, really. But ideally, you never have to log into the virtual machine. That virtual machine runs Chocolatey Central Management, which is CCM there on the chart, Nexus, which is your internal repository, Jenkins, which is used for automation, and there's also some other scripts helper scripts on there. We deploy a key vault, which stores the passwords for all of the services, so we have no we generate secure passwords, and we store those in the key vault. So rather than relying on defaults out of the box, we proactively change those to something a bit more secure. And then we spin up a SQL server, an SQL instance, I guess, to host the CCM database. Now, where some of the cool bits come from infrastructure perspective, is we sit all of that behind an application gateway, and that handles the SSL for us. Yeah, it handles the SSL.
Some health checks, some potential routing. If you wanted to be able to spin this up into a more distributed environment. On top of that, as mentioned, it deals with all of the past SSL.
Yes. So of course, then all of your clients that are out in people's in offices or in other cloud locations, they all come through the application gateway and consume the services. So let's quickly have a look at that. The deployment's still running. That's good. I'll pull that over here so I can still see it while we look at the release notes. James, do you want to?
I will. I will say that my camera has just frozen in an amusing position.
It has, yes.
Yeah, I'm tempted to try and sort that out before I continue.
Sure. Well, I can start on this.
Yes. Well, if we don't mind me stopping my video for a second while I do that, sure, and read off. So it's we did a small release earlier this year to sort out some of the versioning. We obviously had released some new versions of Chocolatey, some new versions of CCM, and which is Chocolatey Central Management, and so on, and we wanted to include those. We also had a bit of a bug fix, if you will. We did notice that in some environments where you weren't allowing your VMs access to the internet, Jenkins would fail to internalize some of the plugins. So we popped as many of those as we could fit, or rather the ones we desperately needed. There's actually a larger set that are recommended, but we keep all the ones that we need to deploy offline potentially, and the rest are deployed if it's possible to download them. And they're just the ones that Jenkins recommends. On top of that, we updated the software. Sorry, I'm going to read off the sheet here. We internalized a bunch of our packages on the first run with a Jenkins job rather than as part of a separate script. So we're just using the same Jenkins job that we'll show off shortly to internalize packages and put them on the next repository. We made some very minor changes to the allowable input for that job as well. So you can now use comma separation and semicolon separation. We added a HTTP to HTTPS redirect, which is just a nice quality of life thing for anybody who just types in the URL and isn't using something like HTTPS only. Although I gather that most browsers these days have that built in now, which is lovely. And we adjusted the deployed VM size to a slightly larger one, keeping the cost roughly the same, just because Nexus actually recommends having 4 cores and a certain amount of RAM, and we wanted to match that. Looking at the bug fixes, we also had an issue with the generated passwords containing quotes occasionally, which only reared its head once or twice, but was significantly annoying at the time. That's about it for 0.14. And of course, we made sure Chocolatey was installed from the internalized version as well.
Yes. Yes. So one thing I wanted to pick up on there is everything required to deploy the environment itself from a Chocolatey perspective. Oh, just had fun with my headphones there. Everything from a Chocolatey perspective that you need to deploy this environment is included in the offer itself. So we've internalized all the little components. So if for some reason your timing's really poor and you're trying to deploy this while there's a community repository outage, which thankfully is very, very, very rare. But if that happens, you'll still be able to deploy the environment. Josh,
could I ask you to explain what we use the word internalized a lot? Can you explain what internalized means in the concept of the context of Chocolatey for Business Azure environment anyway?
Sure. So when you're installing a package from, I'll use the community repository as a specific example. Generally speaking, all you're getting from the community repository is just a small, effectively metadata for the package. And then inside that, it tells Chocolatey where to go to download the actual installer for whatever you're trying to install. Internalizing proactively goes and grabs those installer files and then recompiles the package effectively to include those so that then you can install that package and whatever software that package is installing without having to reach out to the internet. So just, I hope I did that summary justice. I think that's the first time I've ever actually had to to go through that explanation.
No, I think that made sense. The example I use a lot when I talk about it is Google Chrome, because everybody knows Google Chrome, and if anybody's installed the Chocolatey package for Google Chrome, you'll know that it reaches out to a Google download location for the installer, and that installer tends to be or can be the same version for every version of Google Chrome. They tend to use the same installer, I believe. I'm not a Google Chrome user, so but if you internalize that package, it means taking that installer and putting it inside the package, and that means it never has to reach out to Google. So if Google goes down, or the Google download location goes down, for example, or as you mentioned, Josh, thankfully very rarely, but the Chocolatey community repository goes down, your package is all self-contained. It doesn't have to reach out for anything. And you can take that package to an air-gapped network, for example, or somewhere else that you don't need any internet access for. So I think I just wanted to expand with that example of Google Chrome, but you nailed it exactly.
And then just recently, less than a month ago, we released 0.15. Do you want to whip through that one, James, or I can take it?
Sure. If you'd like to.
Sure. So a lot of the stuff with this release was trying to make things simpler for people. So like I said, we really want to encourage thinking of this environment as a complete appliance rather than here's a VM and here's something else and here's something else. So what we've done is added we've made it easier to update the certificates. So the key vault that we mentioned that has the passwords in it also has the certificate in it. The idea being then that you can update that certificate, and we have some automation running that will go and update certain parts. Unfortunately, we couldn't update every certificate that we need, every instance of this certificate being used that we wanted to, because of some limitations in what we can actually do with Azure. But we've provided some documentation around the rest of that. So everything's covered now, from how to update your certificates. Of course, we had our big Chocolatey releases, version 1.0s of a lot of things. So this version, which is what's currently live on the marketplace, includes all of those updates that we've had recently. And that was across basically everything Chocolatey and Chocolatey GUI and Agent and CCM, everything. One of our, the team that looks after the Quick Start Guide, or primary, they had some improvements to some of the Jenkins, or one of the Jenkins scripts, and of course we gladly accepted that change into this environment as well, because it made perfect sense when we saw it.
Yep.
Yes. And previous versions of the environment, with the Jenkins jobs, there's automation there to internalize packages from the community repository, and then keep those packages up to date over time. But it wasn't doing that for packages from the license feed, which is where you get things like the licensed extension and the Chocolatey GUI licensed extension, and the CCM bits themselves as well. So we expanded those Jenkins jobs to include the license feed as well. So you can internalize from there and keep those packages up to date with the built-in automation as well. Then peeking behind the curtains a little bit, I mentioned we internalize the offer. Internalize all the packages that constitute the environment, and we're limited in the size that we can ship via the offer, and we were getting very, very close to that limit. So what we've done is, for those bundled packages that are only ever used to set up the environment, we've basically made it so that those bundled packages only contain the bits that we need. So like if we only need a 64-bit installer, we don't include the 32-bit installer. Now, those bundled packages aren't uploaded to the internal repository. So, so they're only ever used to set up the environment, and they won't make it so that if you go to try and use them from your C4B environment, your Chocolatey for Business environment, that you all of a sudden don't have 32-bit installers when you expected there to be there.
It's worth noting as well, perhaps, that there are issues open for these on the package internalizer
yes,
repositories, but we wanted to get this release out before
yes,
that was likely, well, to put it simply, before that was likely to be released.
Yeah. Then we've updated the bundled version of Jenkins, and of course all the plugins and stuff associated with that, and the web of dependencies. We've got all that locked down, so that was good. And of course, behind the scenes again, there's an item there that says we renamed the repository. Yeah, it's down there in the link. It's not currently public, but we renamed the repository, so yay us. And on the documentation front as well, we provided some guidance on how to update your license. So of course you saw me upload a license via that wizard. Then of course the next step is when you renew your license, how do you get that into the environment? So we've documented that. Yeah, go ahead, James.
Sorry, I was going to say, yeah, when we were starting out with this, we were a little bit mixed on whether it was going to be used for standing up kind of short to mid-term environments or doing proof of concepts or what. But as it happens, folk have been using it for fairly long terms. So that's brilliant. And but it does mean that we had to think something more about how to keep it ticking along.
And just while because that's the end of the release notes, but I did want to point out in our release notes, we do have a little table here where we mention all of the changes to the bundled versions of packages that we're shipping with the environment. So if it's listed in this list, it means it's changed or it was brand new. So like this package here, one of the Java runtimes, that specific version that's been bundled is new, whereas this one was updated from a previous one. If we look at probably an older one that's a bit shorter, this one was just an update to the CCM bits and some new dependencies that came along with that. So if you're ever wondering what's coming down with the environment, we include that in the release notes. I think we talked through that a little bit faster than we'd planned. So, Paul, are there any questions pending?
No, there's no questions in the chat that are unanswered. One's just come in there, but it wasn't specifically a question. No, there was no specific questions come in that had been unanswered, but I wanted to touch on a point that
yes,
James made, and you know, I've actually forgotten what it was now. But it was around about, yes, that's what it was. James had mentioned that customers are using this not just to deploy Chocolatey for Business to maybe try it out or use it as a proof of concept, or, you know, they're actually deploying this now and using it long-term in environments, which, to be fair to what we had originally envisioned this as, is an environment where customers would spin it up. You know, they would get the workings of Chocolatey for Business, see how great it was, and then be able to transition that to, you know, their internal environment. So it just talks of how the customers drive our products and where they want to go is where we try and make sure that they can go with in this case, Chocolatey for Business Azure environment. We're now looking at this as a long-term virtual machine and solution inside an organization's internal Azure network and part of their entire infrastructure. So it's just nice to know that customers have that much faith in what we've built. And bear in mind, this is a 0.15.0 version. It's had a few iterations. We've built on it. We've made it better. We've added features. We've added, as I said, the bug fixes and the tweaks to those scripts to bring in the Chocolatey licensed extension, allow you to internalize packages from that. But it's moving forward, and it's constantly driven by what customers are asking for and what they're telling us. So it's really important that we get that feedback from customers in order to improve all of our products. But in this case, it's really been able to demonstrate that with Chocolatey for Business Azure environment as we're working through it. So now that we've finished the release notes, has the environment finished deploying?
It hasn't. I'm keeping
It's always the case when things are
close on it.
Live.
It is, yeah. It is looking like it's very close to the end though, so it shouldn't be too far away.
One of the things that sorry, no, go ahead, Josh.
I was going to say, I think we clicked deploy on it a bit later than intended.
Yeah, we've got a lot of packages there that it's been internalized as well, which takes a little bit longer. James?
Although I will say, as in the patch notes, happily they're no longer, they shouldn't type the deployment. So in theory, they should.
Okay, we're just running over 20 minutes. One of the things that I was going to mention to everybody who's watching, either on YouTube or when we've put the recording up or live, is that the documentation link for Chocolatey for Business Azure environment should be down in the description for YouTube. For Twitch, it's not actually in the description, so I'm going to pop that into chat if nobody has done that by the time we get back there. Also, the marketplace offering is linked, and there we go, there's a docs in front of us. The actual marketplace offering is linked inside those docs as well. If Josh, you mind clicking on that Azure environment and just highlighting the, oh, you've got it there. That's even better. Bringing up that
the short link, yes.
Yeah, the short link for it. So that's the short link for the actual Azure Marketplace offering, but it's also in that documentation as well. Actually, just underneath that box that Josh has got there. Oh no, it's further down. There we go. That's it. So you can have a look at the offer by clicking on that link. You can have a look at the documentation. You'll get an idea for how it works. We've put into the FAQ about the self-signed certificates there, and we've talked about the SSL certificate as Josh and James mentioned in the release notes. That's recently been added to allow you to go through and update that certificate. That again, customers were feeding back that was something that they wanted to do. Again, that long-term thing that we never envisaged at the beginning, because, you know, as I said, we were thinking of it was going to be an environment that was spun up for a trial or a proof of concept, and therefore the SSL certificate that was going to be used was short-lived. But that turns out not to be the case. So we've added some documentation around that and how you can update that. We've given you the PowerShell to do it if you want to do it really quickly and just run a command. And we've also taken you through, I believe, the actual individual steps and how that you can do that as well. So it's all there to help out with updating that certificate.
Yes.
So there's no more questions in the chat just now.
Cool. It looks like it's just wrapping things up now.
Awesome. So looking back, Josh and James, I know you're keeping an eye on how it's going, but looking back when both of you kind of built all of this at the beginning and how it's evolved from that initial offer that we have, you know, there's been a lot of work put into this in order to get us to this stage today, and there's going to be a lot more work put into it in the future. But from a Chocolatey for Business solution, how do you think that benefits customers? You know, the way we started, where we are now, what additional benefits do customers get from that early on solution that we had?
Speaking from when we joined, I think it's really easy to see how much more effort we've. Sorry, not that there was no effort before in the previous models of the old school QDE environments, but the QSG, sorry, the quick start guides that Ryan and Stevie have been working on, and of course Adil before as well, and the C4B Azure environment have all had a serious amount of work put into making it robust and user-friendly. So, you know, the click-through guide for deployment here, where you go through, you specify your stuff, put in your license, put in the packages you want. Obviously, you can put in more packages, which we'll show off in a second. But, you know, getting that initial thing down to a couple of clicks. I know we say one click in the title of this, but, you know, it is maybe a couple of clicks. But yeah, getting it down to that, and just making it a little bit more bulletproof. I think that's been really good, and I hope that that's coming across to the customer, as it were.
Yeah, I would agree with that, as somebody who's responsible for kind of managing all of this and making sure our effort goes forward with, as I said, what customers are looking for. Now that we have two solutions, effectively, as Stevie mentioned in the chat, the Quick Start Guide and the Chocolatey for Business Azure environment, they're not identical, but they include the same components that you need to kind of move forward with Chocolatey for Business. But the amount of iterations, the amount of changes, the amount of effort, yeah, as you said, James, in order to really streamline the deployment and, you know, the things that customers want to get into that environment, but also to balance that with getting into that environment quickly, because it's very easy for you to say, oh, well, we give you everything. You can customize this, you know, the actual deployment, and give you 1,000 different options. But that's not what customers tell us they want. They want the important bits, which is the packages. They want to, be able to customize that and get those important ones in there, but, have the ability to add them at deployment, and later on through Jenkins, they can add more. But they want to get from, clicking that Azure Marketplace link and getting that deployed in fairly, quick time. They don't want to have to customize everything, but having the ability to be able to do that afterwards. So going with a lot of those common options, those common things that customers want. And we do say that you can deploy your Chocolatey for Business Azure environment in around 20 minutes. That all depends on lots and lots of different things. We did actually time it, and it can be done. So it's not just a number that we throw out there. Now, this one's taken slightly longer. That's just the way the demo gods like to frustrate everybody and make us all look a little bit silly. But
had a good day for deployments. Otherwise, it's clearly coming back to bite us now.
Yes, it's been a good day. So I think I would echo what you said, James. That, the amount of effort that we put into this, and the amount of passion that you and Josh have shown in building this solution, the amount of effort and passion that Stevie and Ryan have shown as well for the Quick Start Guide, and enabling customers to just get up and running as quickly as possible to get into Chocolatey for Business and see what the solution can offer them.
Absolutely.
So, ignoring what that says, I believe the environment's actually ready, and it's just this step here is Microsoft doing something, because all of our code's in this step. So Microsoft's still thinking about something, but the environment's up, so we can go have a look around. So once the environment is up, of course, you need to access your the various services that it contains. So we mentioned Chocolatey Central Management, there's Nexus, and there's Jenkins. We're going to walk through these in a particular order. So off screen over here, when I was checking that everything's running, I've already run some code that we provide here to get all of the passwords out easily. Of course, they are in the available via the Azure portal as well. So I've run that code. I have all my passwords on another screen, so I won't show them. And we can start having a look. There we go, it's complete. Actually, let's have a look at the resource group before we go in. So when you've deployed it, the version number shows up as a tag. So that's how you know which version you're running, and that ties back to the release notes. And of course, there's all the component pieces that have been deployed. So of course, there's the Key Vault, VM, we've got our app gateway, a bunch of stuff in there. But the interesting parts, let's go. Start with Jenkins. Grab my password from here. So at the moment, I expect to see this still internalizing our initial load of packages. So as we said, the initial versions of this offer would do this internalization step as part of the deployment. So of course, that means the more packages you internalized via that wizard, the more time the deployment itself would take. Of course, we've got the automation engine there to do the internalization, so we might as well use it. And then it doesn't tie up the actual deployment. So this thing here is working away. Just want to check what the status of it is. Yeah, it's pushing things good. So what I want to do is I'm going to try and run a second instance of it, which is possibly tempting fate. So let's go and internalize something. what did we decide on internalizing? Let's do Firefox. No, let's do Git. We don't have Git. So you can provide a comma separated list into this package list variable when you run the internalized packages job. If I click build, this will trigger the job eventually. I don't actually know if this is going to wait for the other internalized job to finish, James.
Fair question.
Might. Yes, okay. Now I actually read the message. So that internalization job isn't going to actually kick off until the first one's done. That's fine. So that's going to tick away. How it's set up out of the box is this is going to internalize packages into the test repository, and we'll see that in a minute. Then that automatically triggers the update production repository job. So then you'll end up with your internalized package in 2 feeds. That's the out-of-the-box behavior. What you might consider doing is gating that update production repository so that you vet things in the test and then you promote things into production. And of course, that's very achievable. But let's have a look at Nexus. Okay, so in Nexus, there's 3 repositories out of the gate. Chocolatey install is where your client setup script is. So when you're ready to start onboarding clients into Chocolatey Central Management, that's where the script lives for that. And then there's the test and the production or internal repositories there. So if we look in test, we can see all of the packages that have been internalized so far, and that's looking like it might be near the end of that internalized job, which is good. And then, of course, those get promoted up into the production repository as well. So there's already a couple of those because they happen as part of the deployment. So over time, oh, I think that finished. No, that's still doing 1Password, although it did just push 1Password. So if we go back, we should see that here. So that's just been pushed up as part of that Jenkins job. So as you can see, it's actively working on getting those packages in there for you. I guess quickly, before we look at CCM, I will also note that there's this update test repository job here as well. That's the one that keeps things up to date. So if you've got a package in the test repository, it will occasionally check to see if there's any updates to those packages and then go and update the internalized copy of them for you. And the last bit is CCM. All right, so CCM, hey, it's all working. So of course, this is our bit, I guess, as in Chocolatey. So we won't dive into the mechanics of CCM here because we've got plenty of other live streams and videos and stuff about that. But did just want to point out that the server itself has checked in. Yep, Choco server, it's checked in, and it's reported back the packages installed on the server. So from here, we could run deployments at the moment if we wanted to install new things onto the VM. But realistically, what you're actually going to do is run that client onboarding script to get your clients checking in, and then you'll be running deployments and that to them. Yeah. So, yeah.
And yeah, and that's another part of our trying to make it so that folk don't need to dial into the VM itself. Obviously it's checked in here. You can be managing your updates through CCM as you would any other machine or endpoint on your network.
Yes. Right. Any questions there, Paul?
I was just about to say the same thing. Just reading the questions just now.
It might to clarify the statements made on pricing earlier. Obviously, in the FAQ, we have a ballpark figure for how much it should cost. But that is absolutely, that's based on us deploying to US East 1, I think, with a pay-as-you-go subscription with no particular handling for licensing or anything like that. If you have a different type of subscription, or you're working with existing Windows licenses, or sorry, not existing Windows licenses, but a license with maintenance, I believe it is, then there's a significant amount of money that will come off that potential monthly cost. But that is just for the hardware. That's just for the deployments you have in Azure. That's not for the software. This is a service for Chocolatey for Business customers in general, and you'll need a business license. So that is a separate cost. Just wanted to make that clear.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point, and I don't know whether the chat was confused a little bit, in that $170 is what we estimate, and that's based on all the things James said, and that's a complete estimate. But some customers asked, how much is this going to cost? And so we gave an approximate estimate with lots and lots of caveats that it's Azure, subscriptions are different, different regions are different, all these things. There's so many variables to be taken into account. But just to be very clear, you don't give that money to Chocolatey. That money is your Azure costs. So that money is the virtual machine, as James says, that you spin up, that you're hosting. That's the costs for all of the components of that. So that $170 a month estimate is something that you give to Microsoft for your Azure environment, and not to Chocolatey. The only cost for the marketplace offer that is that your organization will be subject to is the cost for the Chocolatey for Business license, because the Chocolatey for Business Azure environment requires a Chocolatey for Business license. And as we've got there in the prerequisites right on the screen at the moment that Josh has kindly put up for us, is you need a Chocolatey for Business license, and that can be a trial license. And if you want to explore Chocolatey for Business as a trial, then please reach out to sales. If you go to chocolatey.org/contact, you'll be able to go through the options there and contact sales, and we can arrange for a trial license for you to then be able to spin up the Chocolatey for Business Azure environment, take it for a spin, and then go through. Once you've actually purchased the license, you can keep that environment going and create a new license package and deploy that to your machines, and everything gets updated and everything's fantastic. And those, the other three there, I'm not going to go into, because they're kind of Azure parts of it. The bit I was concentrating on is the costs part that you need to understand in order to use Chocolatey for Business Azure environment. I'm just going to see if there's any more questions in the chat. Sorry.
One thing while you're doing that, while you're looking at the questions, Paul, I forgot to mention that while the deployment was running, I did the DNS record for this off on another screen. So that wasn't magic. I did grab the record and set it. The wizard didn't do that for me, unfortunately. Yes.
So one of the questions that was asked is, Intune requires you to go through, download the packages, convert them, send them up, and then you can deploy them. But the Chocolatey for Business Azure environment just does that for you directly in Azure. So this is really combining a little bit of Intune and Chocolatey for Business and Azure environment. Does one of you want to answer that, or do you want me to answer it?
Give it a shot. And if you don't mind correcting me if I go horribly off base. So I'd say that you certainly could use Chocolatey for Business as your environment to do that, but it would be slight overkill. There's no current job in Chocolatey for Business Azure environment to convert things and push them to Intune. You could certainly add one, but it's not there by default. You could probably get away with that on a local instance of a task runner of some kind, i.e. Jenkins, e.g. Jenkins even, sorry. But yeah,
I think what we're looking at here is, if we want to take the Intune part aside, Intune is something that our customers are really interested in, and we're working on that, and I'll talk about that in just a second. But what I wanted to do was split the Intune part off from this Azure environment. So what we're really looking for, or what we're really aiming this Azure environment at the moment, and I make sure at the moment, things change. Customers want this. We will look at providing it. At the moment, if let's say you've got, I'm going to pick a very small business. Let's say you've got 100 nodes. Okay, and you want to connect these 100 nodes to Chocolatey Central Management, to Chocolatey in general. So you want Chocolatey for Business managed on your 100 nodes. Okay, well, that's servers, clients, workstations, whatever. Then you could use this environment. What this will actually do for you is allow you to deploy Chocolatey packages onto those 100 nodes. On this server, you'll be able to keep those packages up to date. So again, I'm going to go back to the Google Chrome example. So you have Google Chrome. I'm going to make version numbers up here. As I said earlier, I'm not a user of Chrome, but let's say there's version 99, okay, of Google Chrome. You deploy that to all your machines. Fantastic. They've all got version 99 of Chrome. And then you have the Jenkins jobs that will run on a cadence, whether that's daily, weekly, whatever you decide it will be. And they will actually update those packages within your repository. Okay. And then version 100 of Google Chrome becomes available. How do you get that onto those 100 machines to make sure that you're up to date, your machines are not vulnerable, etc., etc. So what you would then do is be able to you could run a Chocolatey deployment to do that, Chocolatey Central Management deployment to do that, and deploy Google Chrome onto those nodes from this Chocolatey for Business Azure environment. So from that one environment, you have your packages being updated, Google Chrome in this case, up to the new version, and they will, you can then deploy that package out to all of your nodes. So that's what we're really looking for here. It includes central management that gives you that, the deployments I talked about to your 100 nodes, your 1,000 nodes, whatever you have. It also gives you reporting on those packages. So as Josh showed us in the central management dashboard, when you logged in, it had the number of unique packages. We only had the Choco server connected at that time, but it gave you the unique packages. It also gave you the totaled outdated packages. So you can then see what packages are outdated. You can see that one node that's sitting there and it's got version 99 of Chrome. It's not updating. Why is it not updating? And you know that not all of your nodes are up to date with all the software. Then you've got Sonatype Nexus, which is your repository manager, and that basically just stores your packages. Okay, the packages have to go somewhere. That's where they go, and Chocolatey will be able to pull those packages from that central repository and be able to install them on the machines through Chocolatey Central Management. We do that deployment. And finally, we've got Jenkins. That's our automation tool, and that automation tool will run those scripts that pull down, or sorry, they'll check for the new version of Google Chrome. They'll say, oh, I'll be version 100. It'll take that package, it will internalize that package. Josh said earlier on, internalization is where you take the package, you take the binary for the package and you put them together into one package so that can be deployed onto your machines. So now you have the latest version of Google Chrome in your environment, which is 100, using that automation that pulls it down. And let's say version 101 is released the very next day. Your Jenkins automation will bring that down, internalize it, put it in your repository. Version 102, you get the idea. It's going to keep doing that. And that automation will keep your packages up to date. And then you can run those deployments onto your end nodes and they will all be updated. Everybody's happy. That's Chocolatey for Business and Azure environment in one go. So your Intune integration that we have with Chocolatey for Business, it allows you to take Chocolatey packages from a repository. So we talked about the repository manager in Chocolatey for Business Azure environment as Sonatype Nexus. It will take the package from there. Again, let's say Google Chrome 99. It'll be able to convert that to a Chocolatey Intune package. And then you could take that package and push it up to Intune. And then you can use Intune to deploy that to your machines. And then when version 100 of Google Chrome becomes available, you can take that, you can convert it to a Chocolatey Intune package, you can push that up to Intune, and you can do your Intune things to make that all happen and deploy onto the end machines. So that automation for Intune is not built in to the to Jenkins, the automation tool that we have for Chocolatey for Business Azure environment. But when I say built in, I don't mean it's something that we have to do. We have to release an update to Jenkins to make that happen. Jenkins runs PowerShell scripts. All of our Chocolatey tools really are the automation behind a lot of, or the automation that we try and use as the glue for all of our tools is PowerShell. So if you want to do that process, I said, when you pull down the updated package, convert it and push it to Intune, write a PowerShell script. You can do that. Now you might say, well, why can't Chocolatey do that? Well, every environment's different. And where Chocolatey is dipping its toe into Intune, we have our Intune integration, which is behind the preview flag just now. And the reason it's behind there is because it's new for Chocolatey. We've got lots of customers that use it, but we want to make sure that customers know about it. They understand what it does and what it won't do, and understand the limitations, and also understand the features that are available with that solution. That will come out of preview. We've got an anticipated date and when that will happen. But what we don't like to talk about a lot is specific dates. We like to talk about quarters because things are very fluid when it comes to software. Things are very fluid when it comes to what customers are looking for. So we would anticipate that being Q4 this year and Q1 next year when that will come out of preview. But that doesn't mean it's not usable. So please don't take it like that. It means that it's kind of sat in the product for a while. It's been mature. People know it's there. They've used it. They understand it. We can then take it from out from preview, and then you don't have to specifically go in and enable that preview flag in order to use it. And because it's part of the, I was going to say part of the main product, but it's part of the main product anyway. It's part of the overall solution that Chocolatey provides. It's no longer something that is new to us, and customers are understanding it's become more mature. So that's how we like to do things at Chocolatey. We don't just like to throw things out, let customers beta test it and then give us all the feedback and we fix it. We like to make sure customers are happy with what we've provided, make sure they're comfortable with what we've provided, whether that's documentation, whether that's YouTube videos, whether that's these streams, whether it's webinars, whatever. We like to make sure our customers are happy and comfortable with what we have. And that's why we don't like to just, jump off and, hey, we've got a new feature, everybody use it, it's fantastic. Let's make sure that everybody's happy and comfortable with how it works, and it's what our customers want before we do all of that. So I'm not sure that's answered. If I'm being honest, I'm not sure that's entirely answered the question that was asked. The question you asked was, the two solutions together, Intune and Chocolatey Business Azure environment. You can certainly do that. Is it built into the Chocolatey Business Azure environment? Not at the moment, but it's a simple PowerShell script away. Will we build that into the Chocolatey for Business Azure environment? If customers want it, then yes, we will. So let me just check if there's any more questions. So we've another question about the infrastructure cost that hopefully we've cleared up. You can keep. Someone's asked about keeping track of licensed nodes via central management. Chocolatey, as Josh showed us in the dashboard there, it shows you the number of licenses that you've got and the nodes that are licensed there. That we will improve that as things go on. Chocolatey for Business, Chocolatey Central Management is currently at version 0.80. We're looking at providing a new version 0.90 in the month of June. So watch this space, and that, we're going forward. We will iterate that and provide more features. We'll fix some bugs that people have noticed, the usual feature bug fix, but we're heading towards bigger and bigger things for Chocolatey Central Management. So please keep an eye on it. Things are going to only get better as the sun goes. So I don't think there's any more questions in the chat. One question.
That last one is the best question.
Yeah, where did I get? There's actually, I believe it's still on the website, chocolatey.org. There is a a merchandise link on there. I believe it's still there. It's not something we actively promote, but it is there. I actually have a chocolatey water bottle, and I'm looking around. It's not actually here. I usually have it on stream. Don't have it today. Yeah, so I don't see any more questions in the chat. So if there's nothing else from anybody, I want to say thank you to Josh and James for joining us today and taking us through that. And what I also want to say is I just kind of reiterate what I said at the beginning with regards to when we do these streams. So it'll be the first Thursday of every month. Normally, I'll do a little caveat in a minute. The first Thursday of every month, we'll do a stream like this where we'll take maybe a chocolate product, or we'll take something that's happening at Chocolatey, and we'll talk about it, and we'll go through it on the live stream. And on the third Thursday of every month, what we plan to do is do a community live stream, and we'll be doing that from Discord. So it won't be what we normally do here, but we'll send out the links, and if you join our Discord, you can get involved in that through our Discord server. Because it's a community, our community is all based in Discord, and that's where we want to keep that. And we do that traditionally the third Thursday of every month, or we plan to. This month is going to be different because it's holidays, things, as I said. 28th of June is going to be the next one there, and I will announce that shortly on Discord once we've finished this stream today. Our next live stream, and I'm just going to check the date unless someone give me the date, is going to be on,
I want to say the 14th, but
I want to see the 14th as well, but I didn't want to say the wrong date.
Well, I'll apologize then if I got it wrong.
No, you're correct. It's 14th of July. Is going to be the next one of these live streams. So it's going to be 14th of July. And what we're actually going to do there is talk about Boxstarter version 3. If you haven't went to boxstarter.org and had a look at the redesign of the website there, our wonderful front-end developer, Stephanie. We've talked about Stephanie a lot, and a lot of these live streams has completely redesigned the Boxstarter website for version 3 being released, and it will be released later this month, beginning of July. And we're going to talk about that in the next stream, and we're going to bring in Manfred Wallner, who has been, I was going to say primarily, solely responsible for Boxstarter version 3. So if you're interested in Boxstarter, you're interested in PowerShell, you're interested in reboot resilient Chocolatey from bare metal, then Boxstarter is where you want to be, and our next live stream is where you want to be as well. So that, as I said, that will be happening on the 14th of July. So yeah, I just want to say thanks to Josh and to James today for taking us through Chocolatey for Business Azure environment. Hopefully that gives all of you an overview of where the product is, where we are, and James is putting that doesn't completely goes beyond the
mirroring. Who knew? Yeah, I was going to say sorry because I saw Josh put the link in Discord, but sorry, in Twitch. But sadly, I need to mirror that, don't I? But sadly, it was blanked out for me.
That's where you can join our Discord. So if you join a Discord server,
it was right before James.
Oh, really?
It's only backwards for you.
Backwards.
I'm so sorry.
So you can join our Discord server and join in with the next community call. As I said, thank you to Josh and James for taking us through the Chocolatey for Business Azure environment today, and giving us an overview of deploying it. Not quite 20 minutes, but it wasn't far off of it. And also taking us through the release notes for the 0.14.0 and the 0.15.0 version of that. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe. It helps us. It helps us get these videos more notice, and it helps us reach more people. Also, if you are on Twitch or YouTube, please like and follow us, and you'll get notifications when we're next going to do a video. And yeah, guys, do you want to say goodbye? And we will end the stream.
Yeah, thanks for inviting us to come on the stream, I guess. It's been fun.
Yes. Thank you all. Have great days.
Bye-bye.